So what if I told you college football is upon us and we've got 7 FBS versus FBS games to look forward to this week, 3 of which might actually be worth playing. And we're going to go over those 3 games here with 3 of the best at wagertalk.com here today as we welcome in the one and only the Pen, Mr. Ralph Michaels, Mr. Adam Trigger, and Mr. Rob Vino. And I'm not joking, 7 games in a week, 0. And these 3 look pretty bettable. And we're just going to ask you guys, if you're joining us, go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. More great college football content is coming your way here on Wager Talk TV. And Ralph, let's dive right into it here because you've got Navy Notre Dame. Are you flying to Dublin? That's the first question I have, number one. And number 2, what kind of game are we going to get here between the Midshipmen and the Fighting Irish?
Now that it's raining, I'm not going to go, Joe. You know, that's why the totals dropped what it was. It opened up 49 and a half, got as high as 50 and a half, and now back down to 49. It's going to be chilly. It's going to be in the high 50s. It is raining, 60% chance of rain. But again, rain is not the issue if you're playing on a very good pitch. And again, they're playing on a rugby field, so I have to say pitch and not field. This is one of the finest fields in Europe as far as being able to handle rain. The wind is the issue, and all the wind reports are between 11 and 15 miles an hour. And yes, you know, I look at wind. If it's 15 and higher, it starts affecting me. So being on the lower end of that, I'm not going to let the wind talk me out of a play. Now, full disclosure, I am passing week 0. Of these 7 sides and 7 totals, I didn't find value in a play, but this is the strongest opinion that I have. So let's say we have a total of 49. When I break down a total, I make sure I think both team totals are a positive play to go over the total. So we take 49, we subtract out the 20 and a half points favorite that Notre Dame is. That gives us 28 and a half. Divide that in 2. So we have 14 points for Navy, 35 points for Notre Dame are basically your team totals. Do I think Notre Dame can get to 35? Well, yes, I do. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. 4 returning starters with an experienced player back. They have their leading running back. And of course, Sam Hartman, one of the best transfers. Having a transfer is one thing. Having a 4-year starter that has the ACC career records in touchdown and is the ACC number 2 career passing yardage leader is a quarterback that's different. This offense is absolutely built for him, being able to run that play offense with a massive line that's going to be able to use play action. So yes, I think Notre Dame can get to 35. Can I think Navy can get to 14? Now that has been an issue in the past. You know, despite having a coach that I respect in Niumatalolo, you know, he was let go just because Navy could not start the seasons well. They've been pathetic. And most of the time, option teams do start the season slow. You need your timing on the offensive line. The backs need to get the timing in with the wide receivers. The backs need to get their timing in with the O-line. And the other team, the Notre Dame defense, has time to prep for the option. So why am I going with the over? Well, we're going to see a change this year. Niumatalolo was let go. They bring in Brian Newberry. Actually, they promote Brian Newberry from DC, and they bring in Stone from Kennesaw State to be the new OC. Grant Chestnut. And it is a situation where you have a pass game now in the Navy arsenal. Yes, they're still going to run the option, but Navy used to run the option and throw the ball deep, and it was just a pathetic type offense. Now we're working in tight ends. Now we're working into throwing into backs. That gives Notre Dame some new wrinkles to work with. So yes, I think Navy can get to 14. Yes, I think Notre Dame can get to 35. So therefore, I do like the over in this game.
Looking for some points, not something we would necessarily say a lot when it comes to the Navy of old, but it is, like you said, Ralph, it is a new era in Navy football, and that was a pretty darn good game last year. We'll see if they can match it Ralph likes the points in that one, and we're hoping if you like the content here, you guys will go ahead, smash that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button because we have much more coming your way this college football season, including, and this is one heck of a game, Trig. I would expect nothing better from you than to pick this game here in a revenge spot of all things against FIU. Talk to me here about this game coming up between Florida International and Louisiana Tech. What are you looking at?
Well, Joe, first, before I get into my breakdown, a couple housekeeping items here that I just want to get out on the show. I'm going to do a new segment. It's going to be my just me. I think it's called Garbage Time is the working title. And I'm going to break down the worst games of the week, Joe. Just the absolute, give me 0-7 versus 0-5. It's probably going to make the card. I want to hear from you guys if you want. If you've got just a trash game that you want me to talk about, DM me on Twitter. I'll get it in there. The point is, everyone breaks down the top 25 games. No one talks about these fringe games that get virtually no love. And usually, Joe, there's more value in those games anyway. We're going to keep a record. So I'm going to put out stuff that A, I'm either playing, or B, is close to a play. And so we'll do the first one on this show. It's week 0. There wasn't much to choose from. I've got a 5% play on Saturday. So out of the other 6 games, I had to come up with something. And Joe, you cannot talk about trash teams and bad teams in college football without bringing up Florida International, because they've certainly been one of the worst over the past couple of years. 1-16 they were in 2020 and 2021 combined. They get rid of Bush Davis, and Mike McIntyre comes in with a terrible team last year and somehow wins 4 games. So, I mean, that's got to be a little bit encouraging. On the FIU side, a team that was dead last in one of the worst offensive teams. They were bottom 5 in defense, and they managed to go 4-8 somehow. And I attribute that to some defensive playmaking, but mostly Mike McIntyre for kind of, he's a defensive guy, getting that team to sort of, at least start to play winning football, even though they don't necessarily have a winning football team on the field. You go into this season, it might be more of the same for FIU, but, Grayson James is back. He ended up being the quarterback for most of the year last year. They have some offensive linemen. So even though that, on paper, this team, Lexington Joseph, their running back, goes down in the spring, they don't look like a great team on paper, and they're probably a losing team again. There's some redeeming qualities here, which I think is getting lost on the week 0 betting public, who is betting this game like Louisiana Tech has already won and already covered. And that's where I have a little bit of an issue here. And I think that now where this has moved to at 11.5, it could continue to move, but I'm pretty comfortable with 11.5. I think there's some value in backing the Panthers. Remember, Louisiana Tech was a bad football team last year. They went 3-9. They were horrible in the trenches on both sides. Terrible offensive line, awful defense. And, there's a lot of hype with Louisiana Tech this year. They bring in Hank Bachmeier. He's going to be their quarterback. They basically rebuilt their defense via the transfer portal. So it looks like they should be a lot better. But remember, most of these guys that are going to be on the defensive side of the ball have not stepped on the field yet for Louisiana Tech in a real game situation. So I understand why, people collectively are high on Louisiana Tech and why it looks like they're going to win in a blowout fashion here. But it's all sort of hypothetical at this point. They've done nothing yet. And so for me, I would have to see that before I think they're going to win by double digits. Louisiana Tech's going to be without Marquise Crosby. He's supposed to be their starting running back. He's going to be injured. He's out. Again, I don't put a ton of stock in running backs being out, but when you have a team with a sketchy offensive line, it's something to note. And, in this instance, you go back to last year, one of the 4 wins for Florida International was a double overtime win against Louisiana Tech, 42-34 in a game that Grayson James played probably one of his best games of last year. The point here is this. The betting public has pushed this up to 11.5. If this game was not week 0, I'm not sure we would have seen this drastic of a move. If you wanted to bet Louisiana Tech, you should have done it a couple months ago. And I'm sure there were some people and some sharp people that did. But now it's just gotten all this steam. 9 to 9.5 to 10 was out there for a while, up to 11.5. I don't think it's warranted. So I think there's some value on Florida International this weekend. I have to see it to believe it from Louisiana Tech before I'm going to start sort of, laying double digits with the team that was 3-9 last year and is going to have some moving parts and have to try to get them all on the same page. So I think this game is going to be closer than people think. We'll go with plus 11.5 for Florida International. Opinion play for me as well. But I think it's a pretty strong opinion. And if they keep moving the line, who knows? I may even jump in for a client play at some point. But for now, plus 11.5, I think is a good look on Saturday.
Taking the points here with FIU coming up this week, and I would expect nothing more trashy from you, Mr. Trigger there. Absolutely fantastic. And by the way, guys, drop it below in the comments here, which is the one game you're holding your nose with here in week 0. All right, we got one more game coming up that we're going to break down for you here, week 0 in college football. Go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, as we've got, as you just heard Adam tell you, all sorts of great college football content coming your way here this season. And Mr. Vino, how about them Jacksonville State Gamecocks, right? First time FBS member now taking on UTEP here in a game that certainly looks like it's lined as a pick 'em. What do you see it here?
Well, can I ask if it qualifies as trashy as Adam's game? I mean, it is UTEP. It is a first-time FBS program. But you like to find value in these lesser-level games, Joe, and I think maybe we have it here, although some of it has been taken off the top already, but we'll still take a look at this game going over 54 points here. I think the matchup advantages in this game both go to the offenses. Jacksonville State, of course, under Rich Rodriguez, extreme tempo, run-oriented spread. Right? There's differences in these spread offenses. Some run-oriented, some pass-oriented, all kinds of different titles to them. But Rich Rodriguez forever has run a run-oriented spread where the quarterback is a key factor, design plays inside the running game. UTEP's defensive numbers maybe a little bit skewed here. Last year they racked up a lot of numbers in 3 games against New Mexico State, against FIU, a team Adam just talked about, and against New Mexico. Not 3 of your best offenses in the nation last year. Another 9 games they played, in 7 of them they allowed 27 to 45 points. It's a lot of points to be allowing here. The dual threat quarterbacks that Jacksonville State possesses here, returnee Zion Webb, Logan Smothers comes in. Ralph mentioned that you have 6 months to prepare for your first game of the season. I still feel like in a lot of instances, it's tricky to simulate this type of speed, this type of option offense or spread offense until you get on the field and see it. And I don't know that UTEP has the speed and the ability to contain what Jacksonville State is going to throw at them 1,000 miles an hour right off the bat. It is year 2 of Rich Rodriguez's system. They do have 9 returning starters on the offense. So I expect this offense to be pretty good here right out of the chute. It's not like they have a pass-oriented squad that needs to have route timing between the quarterback and the receivers, where sometimes in the first game it can be off. Here it's mostly a run offense. However, that being said, the passing game wasn't much of a weapon last year. Rich Rodriguez set out to improve it a little bit so that he could create more balance here, the step up to FBS football. I think that combination, improved balance on offense, the extreme tempo, the speed and athleticism out of these quarterbacks could be problematic for UTEP's defense. So that's one side of the equation that I think is going to put up points. If I go to the other end, El Paso, not known for a lot of offense, much like San Diego State in that regard. I think the two have been comparable for years where offense is concerned. However, 4/5 of this offensive line for UTEP returned. They were dominant in 2022 against their level of competition there in CUSA. The amount of returning starts out of those 4 linemen is 122. Their starting offensive line averages 309.5 pounds across the front. Jacksonville's defensive front averages 268.8. I'll do the math here. Steve Merrill's not here to help me, but I'll do it on my own. It's a 40.7 pound per man advantage on the offensive line for Texas El Paso, which loves to run the football. They'll run it at this JSU 3-man front. They got one of those hybrid defensive end linebackers as their fourth defensive lineman. Dana Dimmel had said last year that the offensive line is the key to any offense he runs. And generally speaking, it takes 4 to 5 years to start creating that assembly line of an offensive line. And offensive linemen just keep bringing them in, and keep the belt moving. Here, it's year 6. Last year was his best year. I think this offensive line is going to be really good, and especially in this game. They were great at pass protection last year. They only allowed 24 sacks. Jacksonville State was not a tremendous sack team last year against FCS competition. So pass protection for quarterback Gavin Hardison. He's a returnee. I think he's a fifth-year guy now. They caught a little bit of a break. Their top wide receiver last year, Tyron Smith, hit the portal, went to A&M, immediately turned around out of the portal and came back to El Paso. That's a good combination there. He had 1,039 yards receiving, 71 catches last year. Hardison loves to throw a deep ball. They'll take their shots. Usually when you have a game at this time of year in the Deep South, the heat can affect the visitor. Probably not going to be the case with El Paso. I'll come back to this in a minute here because there's one instance where it could be. Turnovers. Last year, UTEP was miserable in turnovers from their offense. I think they had 21. They ranked in that 85 to 95 grouping down the bottom of the nation, and they were bad in turnover margin, ranked number 105. Those things tend to be random. The Jacksonville State, offensive tempo, it probably wears in the second half because of the heat on the Texas El Paso front seven rotation. It's not a SEC type of rotation where you're just bringing in top guys every time. Once Texas El Paso's first unit leaves the field, there's a drop-off second unit. So I think that they could be worn on in the second half by this running game. Each of these offenses is strong enough and balanced enough to get you a lot of points. This number was 52, guys, beginning of the week. 52 was a much better play than where we're at 54 right now. It got hit pretty good a couple mornings ago. Still, the key of 55 is available. I still think there's some value there in a game that probably lands in the 57 to 59 range. So enough possessions, enough advantages. I think we get over 54 here, so that's the way I'll go.
New look, Conference USA unveiling itself. And by the way, that's Jacksonville, Alabama, not Florida. And I just wanted to clarify that, because there are going to be some people looking like, what is this? By US? Nope. Alabama, and it's going to be hot. And I mean really, really hot in this game. So I'm kind of with you. Love points coming down with Jacksonville State. 7 FBS versus FBS schools. We just gave you 3 of the games that we're looking at and broke them down for you. The good news is we're taking suggestions. So each and every week, just drop in the comment section below. Let us know what games you'd like us to cover. Let us know just how trashy Adam Trigger should get in his breakdowns with what game. And more importantly, guys, we've got NFL, we've got Major League Baseball, we've got a lot of other places you can cash a few tickets here. All you got to do is click on this next video. College football, it's back.